Hello, I'm Kelsey Derrick with Meat Market Flies, and tonight I'm going to be tying a simple clouser. Starting off with a size 4/0 Gamakatsu 60-degree bend jig hook. Thread-wise, I'm going to use the Vivus 150 GSP. Really adds a lot of bulk really fast. Makes this a super simple, fast tie. I use the extra large. These are the yellow pupil on a set of lead eyes. I kind of stay away from the double pupil eyes. To me, they're great and they have their place, but they tend to crack, especially when you hit them into wood and rocks. So these are my kind of staple on these clousers. So start right now. I'm going to start my thread right here above the bend. Make a few wraps, get it pulled tight. I'm going to trim off that tag in. Right like that. And then I'll wrap back. Get a good base built on here. Start of every good fly is with a good base, so this will really add some durability to that fly. That's what we're after. When you fish these flies a ton, they get stuck in rocks and branches and great big stripers, so we want to really add that durability. So here I'm going to tie my eyes in. I start about an eyelet away or an eyelet back from the bend. So I'm going to make a few wraps going backwards. And then I'm going to come back and cross over. Really get that locked in there. And then to really finish it off, I'm going to make some good wraps around the base of this. Again, you know, this is a super simple fly, kind of a box filler for us. We fish a ton of them. And I just want to add that extra durability. So I'm going to, right now I'm tuning my eyes and making sure they line up with my hook point. And then I'll come in here. This is one of my go-tos, is Loctite super glue. Add a little dab right behind the eyes. Again, I can't stress it enough, this is just going to add durability. It's going to keep those eyes from spinning. So here I'm going to wrap through that super glue. And just tie this in, make a few more wraps, and kind of clean it up. Okay, so my eyes are on. So that's kind of the base. Now I'm going to make wraps back. As my thread spins and I spin my thread up, it's going to coil up and get really tight. So I'm going to make some spins and really loosen that thread up. That way it spreads it out, just makes it a lot more even. You don't end up with some big humps. And then I'll work my way back to the bend of the hook. Kind of a simple cheat I use on this fly is right here at this barb, right at the end of the barb is where I'm going to finish that. And then I'll just make this nice and smooth. Really cleaning that up, making sure I can't see that hook. All right, now. So for my tailing materials, I'm just going to use some flash. What I like to do is use about 10 or 12 strands. Doesn't have to be exact. Again, you know, this is a tie or a fly I tie for speed and just to fill boxes, and they catch fish, man. It's a lot easier to lose about 5 or 6 of these than one feathered game changer. I can tell you that much. It doesn't hurt as bad because they take so quick to, or they're so quick to tie. So now I'm going to take this, and every guy that ties that's extremely talented, if you watch, they always have methods to measure. You want to build that consistency. So on this fly, I always go right here. I've got this nice little hump from the Renzetti, and I'm going to use my tailing materials right to that. And then I'm going to use a simple pinch wrap. One loose one, one tight one as I torque. And then I'm going to wrap it back. So here, this is one technique that I learned. I think it was Gunnar Brammer had it in one of his videos. I'm going to take 2 wraps forward, 2 wraps back, and that's really going to lock those materials in. It's going to keep them, when a fish comes up and you get some of the schoolies that'll grab the tail of this fly, it won't pull those out. So now I'm just going to clean this body up, and I always wrap these all the way up to the front. You can trim them off back here, but I like to keep that consistent body shape in here. Just builds that really nice base. So take it right here behind the eye, and then I'm just going to simply cut it off, clean that up, and then wrap. Again, my thread got it pretty tight, so I'm going to spin it out. I'll wrap this back. Just cover that all the way up. Pretty close. One little trick I do on mine is I color the body black Sharpie. Just adds a little visual lateral line. This fly is pretty transparent, so this just shows that there's a black line kind of going through. Doesn't go all the way to the tail, but it's there. It might do more for me than the fish, but it's something I incorporate into most of my flies. Now again, a clouser, especially these striper clousers, can be tied in a multitude of colors. We tend to fish olive and white. It's kind of one of our main staples in our boxes, but we fish black and pink, purple. I mean, you pretty much name it, we fished it. So get that all colored up, and then I'm going to use some Loon Flow and just go over this, add some durability to it. This stuff will bleed out as you start soaking it. You know, these flies spend a ton of time in the water. So I'm just going to do a light coat over this, add some durability to this fly too. You know, if a tooth or something comes up, and I guess stripers on their gums come up and hit this, those little tiny sharp teeth, it's going to keep that thread together. So make it nice and smooth, clean it up. Then I'm going to hit it with my Loon Light. Boom. There we go. Get it nice and up. Alright, now we get to the fun part. So on this, I really like the R&D Flash and Silky. So this is white. This is going to be my bottom color. What I like to do is I don't go real heavy on this stuff. We're trying to really design this fly to get down in a hurry. So a lot of materials adds a lot of bulk. It's going to slow that fly's drop process down. Most stripers, in fact, hardly any that I know, are going to hit it on the drop. They're not like largemouth or smallmouth. They're going to hit it as it's moving. So the faster we can get it down to the bottom, the more fishing we're going to get to do. So I come up here, grab a nice hank, take it, and I'm going to trim this. Now my bottom color, I typically get 2 flies out of each, so that gives you kind of a reference point. And then I'll come in here, and if I don't like this taper, this one's tapers pretty nicely, as you can kind of see. If I don't like it, what you can do is you can pull back here and pull some of these fibers longer. It's really going to allow that real nice taper, but this one pretty good on its own. So I'm going to tie in here, advance my thread up to the front. Okay, and then so something about like that. Okay, I'm going to take one loose wrap, again one more loose wrap, sorry, and then I'm going to be able to move this material kind of this way, tip it towards me just a little bit, because as I crank down and apply torque, it's going to want to move it into position. So I use that to my advantage. Then I'm going to come in here, make 3 or 4 wraps, come in here with some scissors, trim that off. I save that for the next one, and then I'm going to simply clean up this head a little bit. few wraps, really get that tight in there. And then I'm going to take 3 or 4 good wraps right behind the eyes. There's a couple different ways you can do this. Again, I'm just going for speed on this one. So get it real tight. Okay, that's the bottom half of my fly. Pretty simple. Now I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to come back in here. Now I've got same material, Flash and Silky. This is in the olive kind of camo. I can't remember exactly the name. This one I'm going to use just about the same materials. It's going to end up being twice as much because I'm going to double it back over itself to add a little bulk and a little body to this fly. So maybe just a hair, about like that. Come in here. And I'm going to trim it right up here. Kind of clean it up. So I really like this Flash and Silky. It builds some body without a whole lot of, it's not a natural material, so it's not going to soak in water. One shake and you're pretty well dry and ready to go again. So now I'm just going to measure it back in here, take it over. Pretty simple. The nice other thing is that I can trim it out. So if I got it a little long, I can come in and taper it with my scissors. It's one thing I learned from Adaptive Fly. This stuff makes some pretty cool bodies. And maybe I'll get into that in some other videos. So I'm going to take this. Again, I'm going to give it one loose wrap, one more, and then I'm going to pull it into position. Give it a couple wraps so it's good and firm. And then I'm just going to take this, and this is where I get some body out of this fly. And I'm going to push it back over the top. So it's over the top, back over the top of itself. Okay. Like I said, I can come back in here in just a little bit and trim this up. Give it a real nice taper. So now make a couple wraps. See how I tied that over the body of itself? Okay, and then we're almost done. So I'm going to wrap this up, get it good and tight, and then I'm just going to work my way, build a nice head. Every time kind of working that so I get a real nice smooth head on this. Come on. Right there. Okay, now the simple part. Come in here with my whip finish. 1, 2, 3. Pull tight. I really give it some tension. I don't want this thing to come undone. Come back in. One more. So now we got the fly is tied. You could fish this like this. Definitely recommend going over the top of it with some sort of finish. I always on mine like to give it a black nose or face. So I'm going to take my permanent marker again, and you can just daub it on here and let it sit for a second, and it'll bleed down in through. All right, just about there. Something like that. Come back over it with my loon. Put a pretty good ball on there. Making sure I cover up all this thread. Just going to add durability to it. You can do epoxy. I hate to say it, but most of my flies get stuck in a log or something before that majorly becomes important. pretty good. I'm going to hit that with the UV. Now you can kind of see I got it a little bushy, so what I'll do, pull it out of the vise, something like that, and I'm just going to taper this up. Something like that. Maybe just a hair more. So as you can see, I get a pretty decent body, and as it starts moving through the water, it's going to taper down into a nice bullet shape. So there you go. That's a striper clouser. Again, I'm Kelsey Derrick with Meat Market Flies, and we hope to be bringing you more informational videos coming soon. Thank you.